In the headlines, National Security Council says situation in the Federal Capital Territory and other parts of the country is under control. NNPP presidential candidate makes case for human development as focus of any vibrant democratic government. NCDC cautions Nigerians against non-essential travel to Uganda following Ebola outbreak. And away from Nigeria, Somalian president appeals for international help for bomb blast victims. Hello and welcome to Trust News Update. I am Ayuba Ilya. Thank you for joining. We begin with security matters. The security situation in the Federal Capital Territory and other parts of the country is under control if National Security Advisor Major General Babagana Mungunu retired is to be believed. The NSA spoke on Monday after an emergency National Security Council meeting convened by President Muhammadu Buhari at the State House in Abuja. In strong words, Major General Mungunu retired described the advisory as false, insisting that it was irresponsible for anybody to give that signal. Kainde Amodu reports.
It's been 7 to 10 days since travel advisories from the UK and US and other foreign embassies unsettled Nigerians. An initial denial from Information Minister Lai Mohammed had resulted in the US stepping up its warning into a level 4 alert. Members of the National Security Council insist it is not ideal to create panic within the country.
The armed forces, the police and other security agencies are working around the clock to ensure that lives and properties of Nigerians are protected. And so far, there's no cause for alarm, and Nigerians should go about their normal duties.
The message from the Council is that everything is under control and that advisories from the embassies were meant not for Nigerians, but were meant for the foreign nationals.
There's nothing we can do if the U.S. Embassy has gone out to give an advisory to its citizens and it has also affected other people. But what I want you to know is that the advisory was issued to their citizens. As far as we are concerned, our own citizens are not in peril.
Nigerians should actually remain calm. Situation is under control. There is nothing new. And that, as the Minister of Foreign Affairs has said, we will continue. We will continue to engage our partners in the most constructive way.
And even though arrests were made, they are part of ongoing security operations and are not necessarily linked to the advisories.
These organizations have continuously been on their toes. They've continuously engaged other entities, other groups, and this has resulted in arrest of several elements, not necessarily associated with this alert, but with the various cells in different parts of the country.
Though the Council is playing it down, it would seem there was a point of departure between the Nigerian intelligence and security community and its foreign partners.
It's also important not to create panic within the country, as I mentioned earlier. That is the messaging, and so for us to work together, not to defeat the purpose of what we're trying to achieve, which is full security in our country, and for all of us to work towards that with our partners and with ourselves, and not to work at cross purposes.
No matter what manner it was stated, either diplomatically or in strong terms, it is obvious that Nigerian security officials are embarrassed with the impression given that the country is skating on thin ice. They are urging citizens to go back to their normal daily undertakings without fear. From State House, Abuja, Kainde Amodu, Trust TV News.
Troops of the Nigerian Army have neutralized 7 suspected terrorists in Kaduna State. In a statement, the Director of Army Public Relations, Brigadier General Onyema Nwachukwu, said that the troops of one division neutralized 4 of the suspected terrorists during a clearance operation conducted at Maidaro, Kagi Hill, Kusharki and Ngwamadaki in Birnin Gwari local government area. Another fighting patrol team of the 1 Division also conducted a separate operation along Sabon Birning Zertake, Ngwang Lima, Riawa, and Tungang Madaki general area, supported by the Nigerian Air Force, and neutralized 3 suspected terrorists who were on the run from Kagi Hill. 2 AK-47 rifles with 2 rounds of 7.62 mm special, 1 automatic pump action gun with 3 cartridges, 6 Dane guns, 3 locally fabricated pistols with 1 9mm round, and 4 motorcycles were recovered by the troops. The Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Farouk Yahaya, commended the troops for their gallantry stride and urged them not to relent until terrorism and other criminalities are brought to an end. At least 13 passengers have been burnt beyond recognition in an accident in Enugu State. The accident occurred on Sunday night along Enugu-Port Harcourt Road near the University of Nigeria Teaching Hospital, Ituku, Ozala. According to reports, a 14-seater bus was said to be traveling from Imo State to Adamawa State when it ran into a trailer before bursting into flames. While confirming the incident, Enugu State Sector Commander, FRSC, Joseph Toby, who described it as an unfortunate incident, said that the command is yet to ascertain the casualty figure. Commuters in Lagos were stranded on Monday as the Joint Drivers Welfare Association of Nigeria commenced a 7-day strike over multiple and excessive extortion by the Parks Management Committee headed by Misiliu Akinsaya, popularly known as MC Oluomo. Members of the group include commercial vehicles, popularly known as Danfos, and minibuses, locally known as Kurope. There were large crowds at scores of bus stops as commuters jostled for a few available buses who hiked transport fares by up to 100%, while some commuters grudgingly paid the high fares to connect to their destinations. Others took to the trekking long distances. The situation, coupled with the lingering fuel scarcity, worsened movement in Lagos. Towards the resumption of operations of the Abuja Mass Rail Transit System, the FCT Minister Muhammad Musa Bello, accompanied by the senior officials of the FCT administration, has held a meeting with senior officials of the China Civil Engineering and Construction Corporation at the Operation Control Center of the rail system at Idu, Abuja. Speaking after the meeting, which included an extensive tour of the OCC, the Permanent Secretary of the FCTA, Olushade Adeshola, said that the purpose of the visit was to review the project and determine what actions to be taken within the shortest possible time to restore the rail system back into operation. On security, the Permanent Secretary said that in preparation for the resumption of operations, measures had been put in place to ensure the security of the entire length of the light rail system, in addition to the security that will be provided on board by other government agencies. And now to political matters. New Nigeria presidential candidate Rabiu Kwankwaso says human capital development is imperative in building an enduring democratic government capable of addressing challenges of poverty and unemployment. The presidential candidate is among speakers at the 3rd Kwankwasia Development Foundation colloquium who shared the same thoughts on sustainable democracy and good governance in Nigeria. Trust TV's Shafiu Suleiman reports that resource persons at the forum, mostly from the academia, highlight the importance of investing in functional education to achieve set objectives.
This year's colloquium, with the theme Democracy and Good Governance in Nigeria, the legacy of Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso draws speakers from the academia who explore the NNPC's presidential candidate's vision of building human capacity for sustainable development.
He might have become oblivious of this in 2014. He was being interviewed about his political views and philosophy. The first thing he discussed about was you govern the people regardless of their religion and you will be just to them.
Emphasizing the need for prioritizing education and boosting entrepreneurship skills, some of the participants say Such should constitute a benchmark for leadership recruitment, especially as the nation heads towards another round of election.
In 2019, he sponsored almost 370 students to go and study postgraduate programs in form of masters, in form of PhD degrees, and the other many areas.
I was among the first people to be sponsored. I did my master's degree in Turkey, where I specialized in biomedical engineering, and I am currently pursuing my PhD at Hebei University of Science and Technology, China, where I am specializing in the same field of biomedical engineering.
I pray the Nigerians, especially the elite, those that the kingmakers, then they should not look at themselves or what. Let them look at the poor masses. Let them look at what is Nigeria coming to. Things will be in place. Even their wealth will be safe.
The NNPP presidential candidate Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso says developing human capital is essential in building a vibrant and productive society.
I felt the best investment for any politician is education. I realized I have few things that I didn't need, and I had to sell almost all things that I didn't directly require for myself to do this scholarship.
As Nigerians go to the poll next year to choose leaders at various levels, politicians take advantage of a gathering like this to sell their ideas on governance. Shafiu Suleiman, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Meanwhile, the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, says his party is yet to formally release his manifesto for the 2023 presidential election. Obi's comment was against the backdrop of a viral document purported as his manifesto. However, in a tweet on Monday, Obi asked the public to disregard the document in circulation, saying that he will personally release his manifesto at the appropriate time. The former Anambra State governor started his campaigns on Saturday in Lafia, the Nasarawa state capital, and promised to solve Nigeria's flood challenge as well as ensure the country attains sufficiency in food production if elected in 2023. You're watching the news update on Trust Television. Coming up shortly, we'll take a look at the importance of alternative therapy. Details of this and more after the break.
There is danger looming everywhere, not only affecting us, but affecting the whole country.
Ni at least dai na wasa iri buhu 10 na shinkafa. Ruwan biniyo ya zo ya mamaye, sannan na loddo kuma ya zo ya kara.
Tau ta yi asara, Taraba ta yi asara.
Most of the flood we are seeing is a fingerprint of climate change. We are having rainfall uncertainty.
The real person that's supposed to know and avert its effect is left in the doom.
Akwai matsalan abinci a jihar Taraba, amma Najeriya.
Thanks for staying with us. Here is a reminder of our top stories again. National Security Council says situation in the Federal Capital Territory and other parts of the country is under control. An NPP presidential candidate makes case for human development as focus of any vibrant democratic government. The Nigeria Center for Disease Control on Monday cautioned Nigerians and other residents in the nation against embarking on non-essential travel to Uganda for now. The NCDC Director General, Dr. Ifedayo Adetifa, gave the caution in a statement he signed on Monday in Abuja. He stated that the warning is to enable public health authorities to determine how the Ebola outbreak will be contained. As of October 29, 2022, the Uganda Ministry of Health reported 128 confirmed cases of the Ebola virus and 34 deaths. Adetifa cautioned that when traveling to Uganda became essential, travelers should avoid contact with obviously sick persons or suspected cases of Ebola. He said that the Port Health Service of the Federal Ministry of Health had scaled up the screening of passengers returning from Uganda at points of entry. The Nigerian Medical Association National Committee on Epidemics and Pandemics Awareness has called on governments at all levels to put measures in place to prevent the impending outbreak of the epidemics in the aftermath of the devastating flooding across the nation. In a statement made available to journalists on Monday by the chairman, Dr. Abubakar Hassan, and the secretary, Dr. Enejo Joseph, in Lokoja, the NMA National Committee on Epidemics and Pandemics Awareness called on governments to provide potable water to the affected communities as the bodies of water in these areas were heavily polluted and unfit for consumption. According to the statement, the provision of water purifiers as announced by the federal government is a step in the right direction and should be extended to all the affected communities. The NMA called for the provision of habitable settlements with insecticide-treated bed nets. Now, local barbers are known for cupping therapy, otherwise known as Kaho, in most communities of northern Nigeria. The practice as an alternative therapy is gaining wide acceptance because many believe it improves the flow of blood in the body and facilitates quick healing. In this report, Trust TV correspondent Idris Jibrin travels to Rano Emirate, where cupping therapy is being conducted in more advanced ways. Here's the report.
A traditional doctor placing a rubber cups on the skin of his patients as part of what is known to be a cupping therapy, an ancient Islamic health practice meant to improve the flow of blood in the body and facilitate healing process. There is no disease that cannot be cured with cupping. For example, those with kidney problem, liver problem, elephantiasis, paralysis, among many other big diseases. In this hospital, we honestly treat big diseases like diabetes, blood pressure, stroke, spinal cord, kidney problem, and even psychiatric problem. According to the therapist, the process helps balance negative and positive within the body and restore balance to help the body's skin's resistance to pathogens.
Wannan anatomic side ne for practicing cupping, weight cupping therapy al-hijama in light of modern medicine and the prophetic medicine.
In this facility, patients are first diagnosed to identify their problem within the body and establish on whether they require cupping therapy or not. Here, in this hospital, if we diagnose a patient, we will be able to see which vein is giving him problem in all this. And the Prophet of Islam has told us how to cure it. Although cupping therapy is believed to be effective in boosting cellular immunity, promoting skin's blood flow, among other diseases, but the lack of modern facilities like this one seems to be threatening the process. Idris Jibrin, Trust TV News, Kanu.
And in business news, as Nigerians in the tech ecosystem still bask in the euphoria of the Startup Act, stakeholders have called on the government to harness potentials in blockchain for economic empowerment and inclusion. The call was made at a conference organized by Impact Market in Abuja. Christiana Amodu reports.
The tech ecosystem has continued to evolve globally, and emerging economies have come to the forefront of blockchain adoption, with Nigeria being one of the front runners and leading country in Africa in terms of cryptocurrency adoption interest. According to a survey conducted by Statista, 32% of Nigerians have been admitted to using or owning cryptocurrency. Now, it is against this backdrop that the sector enthusiasts have harped on harnessing the potentials inherent in the sector to develop Nigeria's financial system.
The potential that blockchain technology has in solving some of the world's biggest problems is still very much underestimated. Blockchain has the potential to radically change many social sectors and foster open innovation and economic progress. A report drafted by the Enhancing Financial Innovation and Access offers an optimistic outlook on the potential of blockchain adoption in Nigeria. The report states that by 2030, the blockchain industry can increase Nigeria's gross domestic product by $29 billion.
Players in the sector further enumerated the benefits of blockchain to Nigeria's road to economic prosperity.
Blockchain, as by its sheer nature, underlines within its design cybersecurity embedded. You know, one of the critical features for blockchain is actually security. And, you know, the understanding is not out there as much as it should be.
If you look at different kind of solutions that's, you know, different kind of infrastructure that can be built on, you know, blockchain protocols, you realize that it is something that is even more for countries like Nigeria, Africans generally, like, because we have kind of like more, you know, less of financial inclusion when we compare to other continents.
The group's report further revealed that over 7,000 Nigerians have benefited across the country with access to more income, improved businesses, and standard of livelihood, which in a ripple effect add value to the nation's economy. Christiana Amodu Utinya, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Now, 4 international oil companies operating 4 crude export terminals and a gas feedstock paid over 138 billion naira to the Federal Inland Revenue Service as petroleum profit tax, company income tax, and education tax for June 2022. This was disclosed in an NNPC limited payment data, which further stated that 138.556 billion naira was paid to FRS with crude oil worth 2.948 million barrels under the NNPCL limited production sharing contract with Shell, Tulgia, and ExxonMobil. The crude oil was sold at an average of $119 per barrel, while the revenue was used for the taxes. The unspecified volume of gas amounting to $537,499.96 was also sold and used for the tax payment by Total Energies for gas export in a joint venture with NNPC Limited. The volume of crude oil and gas recorded was only for those sold to offset the worth of taxes for the entire crude oil and gas production for June, which was not specified in the report. And away from Nigeria, Somalia's President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud has issued an urgent plea for international help for wounded victims of the devastating car bombings at the weekend that claimed the lives of 100 people. The government put out an appeal for blood donations, with dozens of people gathered outside hospitals in the capital, Mogadishu, seeking news of family members. Bulldozers are continuing to clear the blast site in the capital, Mogadishu, on Monday in the hunt for bodies feared trapped under the rubble. Al-Qaeda-linked Al-Shabaab has claimed responsibility for the attacks, saying its fighters were targeting the Ministry of Education. And in sports news, ahead of the first leg of the Confederation Cup playoff, The opponent of Nigeria's representatives, Rivers United, Al Nassr of Libya, have arrived in the country. Rivers United started their campaign in the Champions League but had to drop to the Confederation Cup after losing out to Wydad Casablanca of Morocco in the final qualifier of the competition. They were drawn against Libya side Al Nassr in the playoffs of the competition. The Libyan side touched down in Abuja on Sunday afternoon and are expected to proceed to Port Harcourt. The game will take place on Wednesday at the Adokie Amasiamaka Stadium. And that's a wrap on the news update. You can watch more via all our social media platforms. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. I am Ayuba Ila. Thanks for watching.